welcome to ISB and welcome to ISB Studios,
Mm.
Dave and Malcolm.
Mm.
Again, we wish you the very best while you're here in India and hope you've had a good time. And we thought it would be a good time to ask you a few questions that our students and the people who watch our broadcasts might learn something about what it's like to be in the aircraft industry. And it's not just commercial aircraft, but also spacecraft, the space aviation. So understand what it's like, what are the kinds of innovations taking place, and the kinds of people joining the industry, and so on, and the sense of purpose that you have. But before that, let me introduce Dave.
Yep.
Dave Schultz. We have Dave. Yeah, Dave is the managing director and the regional head of marketing of this whole area, right? Southeast Asia.
That's right.
And you've spent more than 10 years now in Boeing. At 2000, I think you've joined about 2005, about 17 years.
17,
Boeing,
yeah.
a veteran of Boeing.
That's right.
Anyways. And you head this entire region here, the Southeast Asian, Asia Pacific region, and
Yes.
on the marketing side.
Yes, for the marketing. Yep.
On the marketing area. And I also want to welcome Malcolm. Malcolm, you're the managing director for Global Strategic Initiatives. And I'm assuming this is a key area in which there's some of these initiatives in Southeast Asia and Asia. Okay.
Definitely. India is actually, and Dave can speak to this, is going to become the third largest commercial market in the world, probably within the next few years, right, Dave?
I think it's there right now in terms of passenger traffic in the country. So it's pretty remarkable.
Booming.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And which are the first and second?
So right now, China is close to number one, but with all the pandemic is still having a significant impact on the business. U.S. has been number one for quite some time.
Okay.
But China is growing fast, and then right behind U.S., China is India.
Yeah. And this is amazing. 20 years ago, many people couldn't even dream of being here. And 30 years ago, when I went abroad, being in a plane was a very special thing, right? Yeah. And now it's just par for the course, I guess.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. So I wanted to start with exploring exactly that. This is being in a plane, traveling in India for many of the tier 2, tier 3 countries, regions, is still something special. And how do you, at some level, when you think of the purpose for Boeing, how do you sort of tie what you're doing in terms of your work, your operations, your profits, into this larger purpose of society and serving society? How do you frame your purpose in that way? Is there a higher purpose to Boeing?
Yeah.
Well, simply put, I mean, the way that we like to, tell our employees, our purpose, one of the big ones is to connect people. I mean, that's the purpose, and connections through travel, through our airplanes. And, when you look at the population as a whole, the global population, very small percentage still has yet to fly. I mean, most of them, they're taking trains, automobiles, buses. Right. So here in India, I think it's single digit. Is it 1%, Dave? I mean, it's a small number of the population has flown yet. Yeah. So that's our inspiration, is to connect people. Yeah. And across, big regions, like you said, from tier 1s to tier 2s, but US to India. Right. I mean, that's what really drives us and inspires us. And you talked about space. So another big one is to explore. Right. I mean, and that's reaching the boundaries of exploration, right? So, yeah. And for centuries, flying has evoked these kinds of awe, in a sense, right? Yeah, it still does. Yeah. And how does a company then convert that sense of purpose? What are some lessons you've learned into actual on the ground operations, motivating people and so on? What is that kind of glue that holds it together in your experience in Boeing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Dave and I were actually just talking about this. Okay. Because I think one of the things, and Dave, you can comment more, is, right now we need to attract the next generation of talent, leadership, and it's exactly that. Right. And so one of the ways we look at it, I mean, especially the business, Dave and I are in the Department of Sales and Marketing. Okay. So, I mean, the things we do, the deals that we do are, bigger than some countries' GDPs. And so the impact, where we sit, I mean, it's very significant. It's significant. It makes the purpose is there. Yes. And then when we do it, on top of that, what we know, when we connect and we're helping with the tourism, or the business and the transaction piece.
Right.
I mean, we're helping to drive economies.
Right.
It goes hand in hand.
Right.
So I know today, but that's the piece where, Dave and I, we were chatting, is the younger generation.
How do you attract them, right? How do you?
Right. How do you attract them?
Yes.
For us, we see this purpose.
Yeah.
It's much bigger than ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
And so some of the exciting things we can do for India, for example, like Make in India or Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, that's where we see alignment.
Almost close. Your pronunciation is almost
pretty
there.
close. Yeah, so that's where we see great alignment. And again, that purpose where we can line up with bigger national goals and priorities.
Yes.
I don't know, Dave,
Yeah.
any comment on your side?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, attracting talent, I mean, that's one of the biggest things we were talking about earlier. And like we were mentioning, partnering with companies that really drive innovation in addition to ours. Our companies that we partnered with, like Wisk and their Cora aircraft, which is a fully autonomous all-electric airplane. I think technologies like that and seeing how that can be implemented into the future is something that will really drive newer generations of employees through and partners through our industry and our company and stuff. Yeah.
What are some interesting innovations you're seeing that directly affect your industry? I mean, what are some?
We're
look forward to.
We're in the industry of innovation. I mean,
that's the lifeblood, right?
Yeah. I mean, I
what
think
are some? Yeah.
Well, what we're exploring today with ISB is the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes.
Nice way to coin it.
Yes. So
it's the data, because when Dave just described Wisk, that's an autonomous vehicle. And the safety is driven, and that's at our core, safety for Boeing.
Yeah.
It's driven from the data, the analytics, the AI that's built into that. Yeah. Trusting it. Right. Integrating with the bigger system. I think that's at the cutting edge.
It's the critical one
of innovation. Yeah. So, I mean, Boeing is in that space.
And our products with double-digit orders of magnitude more data collection is really enabling a lot of the future predictability of maintenance and allowing operators and airlines to be more efficient and in terms of maintaining and approaching challenges before they even occur.
Before they happen.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because it's too expensive to fix it after it has happened.
That's right.
Yeah. And what are some technologies there that have been helping you in terms of this real time? Is AI being used in this in terms of predictive maintenance?
We're using systems like called ONS, onboard network systems, e-enabling systems that are very popular in our airplanes, like the 787 and the 777.
Okay.
And they are ways to not only collect the data on the airplanes, but also transmit the data to the ground staff and the people at the gate and people on the ground. And we're able to monitor the what's going on in the airplane real time and
know what's happening
and predict that stuff. But some of the other innovations, though, I think are really in the sustainability.
I was going to bring that up. That's right. Yeah. What are some of these innovations?
And really leveraging sustainable aviation fuels in the near term. And we have a goal with all of our airplanes to be to use 100% sustainable aviation fuels or SAF before 2030. Currently, we're certified to use 50% blend. But I think that over the next decade, I think that's going to be the real transformer in terms of achieving near-term sustainability goals and efforts. And long-term, there is the sustainability aviation fuels will, as they become more available, and as fuel prices, traditional fuel prices, and sustainable aviation fuel prices
become more affordable,
attempt to converge. I think that we're going to see more of that across the industry.
I see. So by 2030, you'd have 100% sustainable fuels.
Okay.
The airplane will be capable.
Will be
but
capable.
It's got to be driven by the industry.
I see. By the airlines. The airlines demanding it.
Airlines is a big piece, but also the government.
I see.
I see. When we look at conservation sustainability, all of it has been driven because governments were very intentional.
So they have to give incentives and subsidies
things like that.
So like solar, for example.
Exactly.
And do you see that happening? Do you see countries, governments doing that? In this last 2 years, has there been a setback in it? Or
I don't think there's a setback, but we're hoping they'll do more.
a little more.
Yeah, they're doing it,
Yeah.
definitely. No question.
Yeah.
But we're hoping they'll do more.
Yeah, I think that over the past 2 years through the aviation crisis and the pandemic, there's been even a more acute awareness on people's surroundings, just in general, and more of a focus on sustainability and environmental impacts than ever before.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
become more noticeable.
Yeah.
What are some other forces that you're seeing in this industry? You mentioned technology, innovation, digital, clearly, system. What else is going on? Are there, for example, how about the political crises that's going on? That clearly impacts travel. What are some of these mega forces, as they're called, that drive your industry?
Some of that is pretty interesting. I mean, operationally, there have been a number of airlines that have been forced to cancel flights because of the additional flight time flying around various parts of the world. What we've seen is some airlines have added about 2 or 3 hours of flight time onto their long haul flights, which is a very dramatic impact, not only on the performance, but on
because
the
of new routes and so on?
because of routing, yeah.
Okay.
And it adds significant operating costs, which has an impact on fare structures and therefore passengers' willingness to travel.
That's right.
So it's been having a distinct impact on with respect to those aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of mega forces, Dave, we were just talking about this too. We're an industry that's in demand. I mean, it's driven by the middle class and their propensity to travel. And, India, the middle class has grown exponentially. And eventually they're going to travel.
Yes.
Business, leisure, whatever it may be.
Right.
And so, the growth is strong.
Okay. We're much more closely linked there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's driven by people. So we're not worried in terms. That's the big
growing prosperity that really makes it.
Joint prosperity.
Okay. Wow.
India and Southeast Asia are the fastest growing markets in the world.
Wow.
And speaking of middle class, throughout Southeast Asia, for example, there's been over 50 million new middle class households added over the past decade, and we're forecasting another 50 million middle class households over the next, which is going to dramatically impact the propensity to travel and impact the industry. So that's pretty.
And what impact does it then have on the design of aircraft? And are there any connections between the growth in terms of demand and the kinds of products, the kinds of aircraft? Any such connection?
Definitely.
Smaller aircraft, larger aircraft, what does that mean?
That's Dave's expertise.
Yeah, I think it's more about maximizing efficiencies, finding the right size airplane for the right size market, analyzing a kind of a hub and spoke network that we see through parts of the region, and also leverage more point-to-point access. So really driving
like the Southwest Airlines model.
Yeah, exactly.
Point to point.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And having a variety of airplanes like with our narrow body products, the 737 MAX 7, we've got four airplanes: the MAX 7, the MAX 8, MAX 9, and MAX 10.
Okay.
And each of those have about a 10-15% seat differential between those, which really allows us to optimize the right airplane for the right market and maximize efficiencies for the airlines.
Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. I should raise this, and this may be a difficult question to answer. When air travel first began, people had this sense of lounges and, there's a bar and all that space. But then there's a sense of disappointment that you get into this aircraft and a lot of and for me, I struggle with that leg space. How does what is the challenge here? Is it even possible to square that circle? Enough leg room, enough of this, yet be efficient.
Yeah, I think the Indian market specifically is a very price sensitive market. It's one of the lowest fare markets in the world, which is great for the flying public. And the airlines have to manage the operating cost structure to be able to be profitable and continue to offer those low fares.
So therefore, leg space is
the day that the flying passenger is willing to pay more for that leg space, they'll probably get it.
So that's the key.
You asked, how do the aircraft that comes into production are designed? For example, the supersonic. We were thinking supersonic travel, people would want that, and our concept was pretty far along, but that's not what the market wanted.
Really? Too expensive, or what was the?
Well, that specific one is really interesting because we were analyzing speed costs versus fuel costs. And as soon as you start to increase the speed capability of the airplane, with exception, I mean, this airplane was looking at close to the speed of sound.
Whoa.
So
Yeah.
very fast speed, but
Right.
the public wasn't actually willing to pay for that extra speed, which was one piece of it. Additionally, the airplane was being built in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and similar to today, fuel costs were starting to spike.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a fundamental shift from the necessity of speed to the necessity of fuel efficiency.
Fuel efficiency. Almost like sustainability, right?
That's right.
Many people say they want it, but they're not willing to pay a premium for it.
That's right.
That's the challenge. Yeah. Do you think there'll be new technologies that will make it both efficient, affordable, and the kind of technology you're talking? Is that on the horizon at all, or it's still a long way off?
I mean, we're always looking at new technologies. I mean, that's the interesting thing about the analyzing the market and working with the customers and trying to figure out what airlines want moving forward in the future and how we can achieve those goals.
Yeah. And it's really airlines who drive. Yeah, exactly. Right. We mentioned space travel, and that's clearly something that's exciting for a lot of people. What's Boeing doing in that area, and what could one look forward to in space travel? Malcolm?
I can say a few things. I mean, Boeing is, we do a lot of partnerships with space, and I mean, we're one of the biggest contractors for space. So we're launching vehicles all the time, and we have our unmanned space commercial program that's underway. I mean, there's a lot of things happening in that area. I mean, we've been doing it for decades. I mean, I don't think that's something Boeing puts out. Right. They're not always,
it's less known.
Boeing's logo is not always there.
Everyone's saying Elon Musk, right?
So, but I mean, we're there. If you read the fine print, you'll see Boeing as one of the key partners. And so, I mean, I would say we're one of the leaders in space.
In the space.
In the space arena.
And what's happening on that? What are some new developments that's happening in space?
The key is the unmanned, the commercial crew. The project that we're working on right now, which has been underway for years. And we're commercial, and we should be know all those details, but we're very much focused on the commercial jets.
Oh, the commercial aircraft.
Yeah, commercial aircraft.
Yeah. Very interesting. I was going to ask you also culture, right? Culture is we talked of purpose, we talked of innovation in terms of these technologies. We talked of the customer value proposition, and I guess it's still efficiency, low cost for many developing countries. How about culture? What is the culture like inside Boeing? How is it like if I were to join, an engineer were to join, or a manager were to join from ISP? What would that person face? What is the woof and warp, I guess, of culture at Boeing? What is it like?
Yeah.
You want me?
Yeah, go ahead.
To start off?
Yeah.
You know, there's when we think of Boeing culture, number one, we're an engineering company.
Yes.
And not only that, we're 105 years old now.
Wow.
So, I mean, we've been around for a very, very long time.
Ever since air travel almost began.
Pretty much. Right? I mean, we are, we're
Wow.
side by side with the history of aviation.
Right.
And so I would say, I mean, so if I know this is a business school, but if you are a technical engineer, I mean, definitely that's in our DNA, one. The other piece is safety. Because, you know, there's
critical.
Super critical. That is at the paramount of what we do, everything. Not only, I mean, of course, it's our aircraft.
Right.
I mean, they trust our product. It's going to be safe every time you fly it. But even within our walls, I mean, the way that we think about the work we do, because we have a big manufacturing facility, safety is top, right? So we look at that. That's ingrained in our culture. And then the diversity. I mean, that's something that we look at. I mean, we have always been a very diverse company, but now everything, it's intentional. The way that we work with our teams, leveraging it. I mean, for us, I mean, we're here in India. We're both American. Right. I'm Korean. Dave, I don't know your
Texan.
Midwest.
Midwest. Okay. Midwest.
Okay. And so we're incredibly diverse company, but leveraging like our locations like here in India. We have thousands of employees here in India.
Right. Yeah.
Understanding the culture through our teammates that are based here. I mean, so that's part of our culture and DNA. Other things. And then at the center of it, I think, and these are general things that probably a lot of companies say, but continuous improvement.
That's a big
quality.
Quality management.
It's always something we're thinking about.
How about agile teams and so on? Is that something you've embraced within Boeing?
Of course.
Custom agility, agile teams, Scrum, and so on. Is that something you do?
Of course. I mean, we have a very disciplined we look at it a disciplined manner, but then we have teams that go actually execute, and they're
Okay.
very agile.
Okay. Okay.
My team included.
Okay. Okay. Actually following Scrum principles and so on, or is it just in general agile? Because there are different kinds of agile
You're right.
teams. Yeah.
We follow Scrum. We follow in general agile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then in terms of, someone joins, what could they look forward to 5 years later, 10 years later? What's the kind of career that they can expect?
One of the cool things about joining the company is that from at least from my perspective, I joined as an engineer early on, and then moved around it's there's so much opportunity once you start working at the company to see all sorts of various aspects of it. It was really interesting for me because I was looking at analytical analysis of a airplane that we were developing early on, and then got to follow that airplane through wind tunnel testing and all these other things.
Okay.
And then addition to that, I was able to explore what the sales and marketing organization was doing.
Okay.
I learned that they were talking about similar things I was talking about, but having way more fun doing it. So,
So that's why you moved to.
but my point is that the company is there's massive opportunities to move left, right, and up.
Also
across,
move globally. I guess,
and
right? Can you
globally.
also move?
There we have offices all around the world, so it's tremendous opportunity for global placements and global exploration.
Okay.
So there's many opportunities.
So really try out your chops in different places.
Exactly.
In some ways, right?
Yeah, I would say, Boeing, we have 150,000 employees, but that's our employee base.
Right.
We're a heavy globalized, our supply chain is all around the world. So when you think about the scope of our company, it's much bigger than that.
Right.
So, but with that 150,000, like Dave mentioned, I mean, we have a research and development, big organization. We have a services organization. We have a financial organization, a Boeing Capital Corporation.
Okay.
We have sales
that
and
provides lease financing and so on. Is that
that's right
to your customers, to the aircraft?
Yeah, there's some financing solutions we do through that.
Okay.
We have innovation. We have military defense. I mean, there's just you join Boeing. It's like joining probably like 100 companies.
You could have multiple careers
you got
within
lots of different places you can go. Yeah. Versus, I know there's big companies out there, but and they do diverse things, but we really, I mean, when you think about what we do, Dave, I mean,
through your partners, and it's an ecosystem. Really.
Yeah, and then the network that you develop, working at Boeing. Yeah, I mean, here we are, working with ISB, right?
Right, so, absolutely. Yeah. So when employees come, they tend to stay. Is that attrition is low in Boeing? How's that? How's that?
I don't know the numbers, but I'll tell you this. Some of the people that report to me have been at Boeing 30 years. I think the average number of years on my team has got to be 25 to 30 years.
You compare that to the software industry where it's much less than that.
Yeah, so people stay, but the key question is, and we talked about this, it's the younger generation.
Yes. How do you attract them?
How do we attract them? What really inspires them?
And what are you doing to attract them? What are some lessons you've learned in that? How to attract the millennials?
Yeah, you're right, Dave.
What have you
speak to some of that?
Yeah, office structures, I think, is one thing that we really focused on recently. Over the past year and a half, we've recognized, or 2 years, we've recognized that the technology is available to allow us to be more flexible with our work environment.
The office design.
Yeah, exactly. So
and work from home also, is that?
We've at least in our sales and marketing organization, we've implemented a hybrid type of a work environment.
Okay.
So I think that's attractive to a lot of folks that are coming on board out of school and other places. But also, in addition to that, I mean, it's very hard to replace the in-person, face-to-face interactions.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely, especially for being innovative, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And also, I think meaning, giving them meaning, a sense of purpose, giving a sense of collegiality, the collaborative part. Yeah, those matter to the generation. Definitely. That you belong to this cool group and so on, right? Yeah.
And interacting with people across the buildings, before meetings, after meetings,
you do
it sparks the creative process. It sparks the ideas that you didn't even know that you would have come up with.
Those accidental collisions, right?
Exactly.
Okay.